Hello and welcome to Leo Zay's Pantheon, a fortnightly podcast with me, your host, Leo Zay. Today I'm going to be talking with co-host Sebastian about Dracula. So, over to us. I am actually still in the... I've just finished watching Fargo season 3, so that's where my head's at the moment.
Well, we're not here to talk about Fargo, we're here to talk about Dracula.
We are here to talk about Dracula. This was actually your idea, Sebastian, so...
Yeah, well... Let's start off with a statement by me, which is, I've never read the book. So off to a good start. However, I have seen many Dracula films.
Yeah. Dracula as a character has sort of been in our lives for a long time. I remember as children we'd watch Bela Lugosi's Dracula in the morning before school every day. Every day. How long did this go on
Really?
for? It was a long time.
I don't remember. You know what? I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it happened. This was a thing.
You had a false memory.
No, this happened before school, primary school.
Yeah.
You always used to put it on.
You just listen to that.
Yeah, you always used to put it on. That or The Mummy.
The Mummy would. You know what?
How old were you when you were into the Universal films?
Must have been about 7. I was always more drawn to The Mummy, for reasons unknown. It's a very dry film, to be honest. That's The Mummy. So I tended to I think I watched the first 5 minutes, which is probably the best bit. That and the ending. Best bits of the films. But, we're not here to talk about The Mummy.
No.
We're here to talk about Dracula.
It's fine. I agree with you. I think that the Mummy with Boris Karloff in, it probably was better for the first 5 minutes because you actually see him as a mummy in bandages, and for the rest of the film he just looked like Grandad.
That's what I was right, like our Grandad.
Yeah, he looked like Dad's dad.
Did look like our Grandad.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. You meant to see him as like this. He's like a prince, isn't he? Like an authority figure. I think king. Yeah, I think you're supposed to see him as how everybody else would have seen him when he was alive, before he was. And I kind of like that angle, but I digress. Dracula, on the other hand, he's interesting, isn't he? Or is it a man? I don't know.
Is Dracula
I haven't read the book. Pardon?
Dracula is a man, yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, actually,
not.
Bela Lugosi's Dracula, the storyline is very, very different to the book. For a start, Renfield isn't Renfield the agent that goes at the beginning?
Renfield, yeah. So Renfield is, as probably people know, is kind of like Dracula's servant from England. But yeah, he's the one he's as a substitute for Jonathan Harker.
Yeah, so they merged the two characters basically.
And I don't know why they made that switch, because I'm just having a look now. Is Jonathan Harker even in that film?
I don't think so. I don't think he's actually in it, because Renfield is just is somebody in an insane asylum basically. In the
John
book.
Harker is in the film.
Is he?
Yeah, sorry, he is.
Well, Bela Lugosi's Dracula, it was based on a it was like a stage play. They changed the plot for a ballet, I think. So it was all adapted for theatre, and then they made the film from that script, but it was completely changed from the original source material.
Well, with that said, let me just read the last sentence from the Wikipedia plot summary. Dracula is hunted down by Van Helsing and Harker, knowing that Dracula is forced to sleep in his coffin during the daylight as the sun is rising. Van Helsing prepares a wooden stake while Harker searches for Mina. Van Helsing impales Dracula, killing him, and Mina returns to normal. That doesn't happen. But that's never happened. I'm not upset by it, but I just think that's bizarre. It sort of feels like...
That's the Wikipedia... That's the 1931 Dracula's plot. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. That seems to be the formula for all Universal horror films, as I recall, because the end of The Mummy is the same. It's like it's always character taken as like a sort of damsel in distress, and then throughout the duration of the third act, they're sort of held captive, and then the monster is subsequently killed by the hero, and then returned. Everything's all fine afterwards. It's just a time in their lives. Oh, it's alright, I just encountered a dead man who wanted to make me his princess.
It's alright, I just encountered a dead man.
Dead man who was adamant that I should be his wife.
You're right, though.
Don't know why. Don't know him.
That is the basic premise of all of the Universal monster films.
Think about it. The Mummy. The Mummy.
Creature from the Black
Dracula. Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
The Wolfman, maybe? I can't quite remember.
I can't even remember.
You know what? The only one that I can think from the top of my head that isn't like that, and I actually find... because I always found this film quite interesting, but this sort of makes it even more interesting now I think about it, is The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
Because he's actually quite a horrible person.
I just remember that film. Yeah, it was very different, and for the special effects at the time as well, that was very impressive.
Oh yeah.
But also Frankenstein, that doesn't really have... Does it have a love story?
No, he just kidnaps Henry Frankenstein. The monster just kidnaps Henry Frankenstein's wife as a sort of like, I guess to get his attention.
Okay, but it's still got the damsel in distress archetype there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the monster's just got daddy issues. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, well, that's how it comes across in the film. I've never actually read the book Frankenstein.
No.
To my
would like to. Don't think I ever will. And I don't think I'll ever read Dracula, which is more to the point. However, I have.
Why? Why though? Just out of curiosity, because it is a fantastic book, and it's not. It is accessible as well. It's quite an easy read. I'm not saying you're thick or anything.
Yeah, I don't read. The only book I've ever read is 1984. So, and that took me. There was a good 3-month gap between.
That's not true, Joe. You used to read the Encyclopedia of Dinosaurs.
That's it. See, I read the Encyclopedia of Dinosaurs, which I can see on the shelf right now. I'll take that to my grave. I've also got A Clockwork Orange, but I can't quite get my head around it because of the dialect in which the characters speak. Anyway, Dracula. I have, however, listened to an audio. Well, I've listened to about a third of the audiobook, as read by Christopher Lee. That's good.
I'd just like to point out, you recommended this to me, and it's only about 3 or 4 hours long on YouTube, and it's completely abridged, so it's not the original text.
What?
Yeah, it's not the original book.
Oh.
So I have read the original book in 2013, I think, but for this podcast I've been catching up via listening to a proper audiobook of it, and that lasts just under 16 hours.
What?
Yeah.
I did think it seemed very short, admittedly. But I just thought, oh, it's an old book, it's not going to be that long.
No, the audiobook's actually around about 16 hours.
Well, that's absolute bollocks. That was good though. I was enjoying that. I haven't obviously finished it, but I feel like I should, do something about that, because
if you're not going to read it at any point, you should definitely download the audiobook, the full one, because I think it's a very enjoyable book. The narrative as well that I find interesting is that it's all through letters written and some newspaper articles. So it's pretty much all from first person of each character throughout in a chronological order. It's not actually written from a third person perspective.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sounds like the kind of thing that you could do, make like a saga or a series out of. Like you'd have each episode would focus on that character's portion of the story.
Well, potentially, but it threads in and out of different letters, you see, so that your one letter will be towards another character and then he'll get the response, so a lot of it's that way.
Why is this Christopher Lee one, why is it so different? Because the audiobook, not his films, because I wouldn't have known. And I assume other people have listened to that and sort of thought the same thing as myself. I've listened to Dracula now, so yeah, but no.
Well,
it kind of has the essence, though, I guess.
I really recommend reading the source material because there's so many myths and memes of Dracula over the past, probably going back to Nosferatu when it was the original Dracula film, really. But things were drastically changed about the story, but then they kind of stuck in culture. So one example is the idea that Dracula turns into a bat, and people think that that's primarily what Dracula turns into. In the book, the bat's he does turn into a bat a handful of times. There's at least two, but more often than not, he turns into a wolf. In one instance, he turns into an eagle. I'm pretty sure there are other animals that he turns into. So it's the idea that he's a shapeshifter. It's not just about the bat.
These are much less threatening. I was going to say they're much less threatening. The idea of a wolf is quite scary, but
yeah, well, it's very similar to the werewolf then. And I guess that's why they wanted to differentiate between the Dracula film and the Wolfman.
I feel like the whole image of Dracula, the iconography surrounding him and the story, there's such great emphasis is put on the bat element, like his cape is effectively bat wings, and that's played on all the time. The collar, bat ears, obviously.
But so the collar and the cape, they were theatrical props for the 1931 film, essentially.
Yeah.
It's not really from the book. The bat ears probably come from Nosferatu. Actually, I'm not so sure. I vaguely remember in the book they might have described
I was thinking why the great focus on those particular things, and was that to try and because he's such a theatrical character anyway, was it, and it's a very gothic story, was it to try and accentuate those elements in particular? Because when I think of the character, I do very, very specifically think of like theatre and sort of, early 20th century sort of Gothic, maybe Victorian, I don't know. But yeah, but at the same time, the fact that you said that it was based off a play, a theatre production, that particular Bela Lugosi film, it kind of would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It would work on stage. It's a bit more campy. It gives Dracula, because the ability of Dracula in a book is that he almost fades in and out of reality in some situations. When he's on the ship, for example, one of the sailors runs after him, goes behind a crate or something, and he's gone. So the idea that it just fades into mist. Now, if you're doing that on stage, it's a good idea to have a cape where you can almost wrap it around yourself very quickly and blend into the darkness.
Oh, yeah.
So I imagine for theatre's sake that the cape became a staple for that reason. But here's another myth about Dracula that is wrong. It's not in the book. The idea that when he is in sunlight, he melts. And how many vampire films have you seen where he's like, I'm melting? It dissolves. It's not true. In the book, all it basically means is he does rest during the day, so he's nocturnal. But if he is, say he was in his bat form and the sun rises, he's stuck like that for the entire day. He can only shapeshift at night.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be... Portraying that on screen would be quite comical, wouldn't it? Because it's like, oh, right, I'm a wolf at the moment. Shite, the sun's coming up. Better... missed it.
Better go and hide under a bush for the next 12 hours.
Better be a wolf for a bit, eh? Oh.
Yeah.
It's just a great inconvenience to him.
Although he does sleep during the day. That is true.
Yeah, that's just because he's kind of a creep, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He's not... He must know how much of an act he is. Come on, sleeps in the day. Normal people don't do that. We don't sleep in the day. Unless you work nights, obviously. But he doesn't even work. Does the job.
Well, the thing about Dracula, his personality, is that he's almost...
It's that castle. These are questions we're not asking.
Yeah, but I think that he's almost the perfect representation of like a clinical narcissist in some ways. Like he's seductive, but he's dead creepy, and he's so sure in himself. So like, obviously people will recognise about when Jonathan Harker first goes to his castle. He's like an old man. And he's got like hair in weird places, and his fingers are really long, and his skin's cracked and pale. So he obviously looks like a corpse at that point. Dracula, he's well aware of that, but he doesn't care. He almost uses it to intimidate at that point.
Again, I feel like it's like the representation of him being like this great sort of not lord, but like baron.
Yeah.
I've seen many things, including more barons in my time. I've seen many barons.
In the book as well, he looks down. He looks down on the peasants.
At the time.
Say that again.
I reckon that could have just been a lot of people at the time as well.
Oh yeah, well, he's meant to be a count, isn't he? Like the isolated, rich, eccentric, living in the hills.
Anyway, talking about living in the hills, how does he pay for that castle, eh?
That's been his for centuries, hasn't it?
Jail. But he's got money, obviously, because he wanted to buy that house in England.
Yeah. Well,
where's all his money come?
I keep feeling like, well, I can refer to the book, but so on Francis Ford Coppola's film, when Harker looks out of the window and he sees Dracula like crawling up the side of the castle on the outside as a lizard. That is actually
great bit.
That's in the book. He does it twice.
Yeah.
So Harker.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah. So Harker actually manages to climb from the outside of the castle into Dracula's room, and when he gets in there, he finds a pile of gold in the corner. So it's almost like he's just been hoarding gold over the centuries.
Oh, okay. Huh. It's an easy solution. So I got gold.
I've got loads of gold.
Gold is gold.
He's just got gold. He's got lots of gold.
Of course he's got gold. I shouldn't have even asked.
He's a count. Of course he's got gold.
So, yeah, absolutely.
What's your favourite?
Count, not Baron.
He's a count.
All this emphasis on Baron.
What's the difference, really? They're all just rich people,
I've
aren't
met
they?
many counts in my time. And many barons. I'm Count Dracula at a ball once with Sylvia Cunliffe.
Sylvia?
Oh. Yeah, Sylvia. It's one of Sylvia's nuts that she wore to the ball. Could have been in 1977 or it might be 1978. Don't quote me on that.
What's your favourite Dracula film?
Right.
This is difficult.
Let me have a think. This is not including Nosferatu.
Why?
Because as far as I'm concerned, it's just. I know it's the same story, but it's just very special to me.
We'll come back to Nosferatu then, because I do want to talk about that.
Favorite Dracula film. Okay, so I haven't seen the first Christopher Lee one.
Neither have I.
No, I've seen. I think it might have been the fourth one.
I've got the Prince of Darkness or something like that. I can't remember the name of it.
I can't think. I think my favourite Dracula film could very well be Dracula Untold.
No, let's just say this right. Yeah, I really like the trailer to it as well.
It's really great. Great stuff. Trailer was excellent. Really gave you a feel for what the film was about. I haven't seen Dracula Untold, for anyone who thought I was being serious.
Yeah, let's just briefly talk about this then, because Universal are trying to revive the horror monster franchise from the 1930s through to the 50s, and they've done an absolute dog shit job of it so far, let's be honest.
It's train wreck.
Is Dracula Untold, are they still considering it part of the canon, or are they starting again?
They started again with The Mummy, and that didn't work out, so they're probably going to start again, because they want to do a Frankenstein film. Get this though, right? We know all of these films, these Universal horror films, the modern ones, are going to be rubbish, because they're shit films really, aren't they? But I think this is excellent casting. Frankenstein, played by Javier Bardem, that is absolutely perfect in my opinion.
Frankenstein's monster played by Javier Bardem. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That is very good. See that working. However, no, they don't have any plans for this new cinematic universe that they're trying to build for their monster franchise, but
they don't have plans for it.
Oh no, just winging it, aren't they? That's why, they obviously have plans for this thing. Dracula Untold is the first within the franchise. It's unsuccessful, and then they make plans to make The Mummy with Tom Cruise. That comes out, it's unsuccessful, and then it's just the studio execs discussing why people didn't like these films. I don't know why people didn't like The Mummy. I thought it was good.
Oh, it was
I
actually
thought Dracula Untold
a little
was
bit of
good.
horror
Seemed
in
okay.
it. No, I just think they're trying to capitalise on the success of comic book films and trying to pull a universe together similar to that, and they're falling flat on their face.
Well, that's exactly what.
Yeah, it's
embarrassing.
cynical and embarrassing.
If
Exactly.
too obvious what they're doing. Like, if honestly, they should just leave Marvel to do their own thing, because
Yeah.
you know they did it first, and they should be the one to do it last, because it's like it's convoluted and it's irritating.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't interfere with any more film productions or franchises or whatever. Because as soon as you start doing that, you start not thinking about that film in particular or what you're thinking for that. Just for that story, you're constantly thinking, right, how can we make this connect with such and such 5 years down the line or whatever? And it's just like, who cares? Also, who asked for a Monsters universe? Who wants to see that?
No, I have no idea what's going through their mind. It's just running out of ideas and wanting to remake things, perhaps. But talking about...
That would be a really great idea if we brought back all those, old Universal monster films from the 1930s, if we brought those back.
Well, actually, arguably, they did already do this more recently with Van Helsing, which came out in 2004.
Yes, of course.
And it's a shit film, don't get me wrong, but I enjoyed that at the time. Because the beginning bit, particular, where it's sort of black and white, it has the original Universal globe spinning, and yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that.
That is good. Come on, I think I've watched that since, and I still thought this is all right, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is like as good as it's.
Yeah.
But the rest of the film, that introduction was like pretty. It was very much in line with the feeling that you got from the originals. I mean, it was theatrical and it was a little bit frightening, but it was modern, which is effectively what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, so
leave it at that.
It felt more honest than Dracula Untold. Felt like it had a bit more integrity than that. Yeah, so Van Helsing, it's not a good film, but it's better than Dracula Untold.
Have you seen Dracula Untold?
No, I just know it's shit. I'm completely...
You don't need to...
No, you don't need to.
You don't need to see it.
And for anyone out there that's listening to this and is interested in Dracula films, I just want to say, don't watch Dracula Untold. Even when you've watched a few other Dracula films, still don't watch Dracula Untold.
Yeah. Dracula Untold was just basically... They just took that first 5 minutes from Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula film and just devised the whole just based off that scene where he fights that big army.
Well, doesn't he wear a similar uniform? It's like the red muscular armour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
It's all it's just rubbish.
What do you think of Coppola's film?
I like the music, and I like theatrics. I do like it. I find it. It's probably. It's not really an objective opinion, because it's probably the most accurate portrayal of like the sense, or at least the spirit that the book has. It portrays the most accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's largely true. Yeah.
However, yeah, it's just a bit long, isn't it?
Well, I was actually watching it recently, and how long is it? Can you get it up on your screen?
Like, if it does clock in at just over 2 hours, they don't have any excuse.
But
Also,
what I found about it, because I watched it recently, is that it felt like a bit all over the place, and if you didn't know the Dracula plot, it would feel very messy.
Mm-hmm.
It feels quite messy as a film, but it relies on you being aware of the original story, which most people would be, but without that, it's not actually that great of a film.
No. Dracula's not a dog. That's my little sister, who has just informed me that Dracula arrives in Whitby as a dog.
Yes.
Or wolf. Is that true?
Yeah. When the ship arrives at the harbour in Whitby, the newspaper cutting in the book, because that's where you get all the information from about that bit, is that the residents see a large dog jump up from the holds and run towards the abbey and disappear into the dark. And it's never seen again, basically. But they later find a neighbour's dog has its throat ripped out, so presumably it gets into a fight with the dogs.
It's quite scary, isn't it, actually?
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. And they're all worried that this massive dog's going to be like out on the moors.
Well, when was Dracula written?
I can't remember. 18 something.
1912, apparently.
1912?
So,
nah.
Apparently. Wait.
What?
Sorry. That must have been a different publication. This is 1897.
Yeah, okay.
Hold on a second, what's this? Dracula's Guest.
Dracula's Guest?
This is by Bram Stoker. This is a collection of short stories by Bram Stoker, first published in 1914, 2 years after Stoker's death. Oh.
But did he write another chapter in Dracula then?
Pardon?
Is that another story involving Dracula?
Apparently. It's widely believed that Dracula's Guest is actually the deleted first chapter from the original Dracula manuscript, which felt was super... this is why I shouldn't do podcasts, because I can't read properly.
It cut out anyway, so start again.
I don't know what this word is. Superfluous to the story. Superfluous. What? What does that mean?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Anyway, I'll start again. So, Dracula's Guest. It is widely believed that Dracula's Guest is actually the deleted first chapter from the original Dracula manuscript, which the publisher felt was superfluous to the original story. This is why I don't read, because I can't read. But there's your answer. In the preface to the original edition of Dracula's Guest, Stoker's widow... no, see, I'm not going to go into this. This is all true. This is talking about Florence now. I talk about her like I know who she is, but that's Stoker's wife. Seems to me... Oh, here we go. Dracula's Guest follows... This is the plot summary. Dracula's Guest follows an Englishman whose name is never mentioned, but is presumably Jonathan Harker, on a visit to Munich after leaving for Transylvania. The young man later leaves his carriage and wanders towards the direction of abandoned, unholy village as the carriage departs. Hold on a second. This just sounds like the start of Dracula.
Yeah.
He sees a man in a carriage. It's very strange. Actually, I was about to say I'm wondering if there are any films based on this. But Dracula's daughter, which is something I don't give a shit about. It's 1936. I was thinking more Hammer horror. There's no Hammer horror era based on this.
No, to be honest, I don't really know much about the Hammer horror Dracula films. There seemed like there's loads of them.
You know what? At this point in my life, at least, they're probably the ones that I am the most interested in.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I haven't watched them. If you just going back to what you were saying earlier, this isn't response, but if you were to ask me what my favourite Dracula film is, it would be the Christopher Lee one, but I haven't watched it. So, it's not really the right answer, is it?
No. My favourite films that I've not seen.
No, but right, all Hammer Dracula films are all effectively the same. I've seen the fourth one. They're all the same story.
Is that the one I've got?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've read the summaries. They're all the same, and I enjoyed that film.
It was a great film.
Camp.
Yeah. And Hammer.
It was camp. It was a bit
usually good.
Yeah.
Because
perhaps, but again, I'm not answering the question objectively. I think it's just because I very much want to watch that film, so
out
it's not
of the films
answering
you've
the question.
seen,
They're asking me which one I would like to watch right now. Yeah, probably that one.
Yeah, okay, but out of the films you've seen, what's your favourite?
Oh, not Coppola's stuff. What others are there? I can't even think.
For me, it's a flip between Coppola's film and the 1931 Bela Lugosi film.
What? Why do you like Coppola's film so much?
Why? I don't know. I've got an appreciation for it now.
I should like him more than I do because I love Gary Oldman, and the fact that it's got what's his bloody face in?
Keanu Reeves.
Is really bizarre. Yeah, Keanu Reeves. That's really strange.
His acting's quite wooden in it, but arguably Keanu Reeves' acting's quite wooden anyway.
Keanu Reeves is a plank of wood. Did you know? So that'll answer your question. That'll answer your suspicions.
Have you ever seen Dracula?
No, but I want to. It's a black exploitation film.
Yeah, from 1972.
Nice. Sounds great. Sounds very... Oh, yes.
I have to get that.
It is a horror film as well. Black exploitation horror film. Is it directed by a white person? That's all I want to know. Just need to check.
What's this?
Oh, hang on a second. Oh no!
What?
It's directed by a white person. It's alright. I'll still watch it.
Argento, Dario Argento. You know, I don't know if you know who he is, but sort of Italian horror director who made. Do you remember that The Church? Can't remember the Italian name. With the devil. Well, he actually made Dracula 3D in 2012. Although I've got a suspicion, because I like Argento's films from what I've seen, but I have got a suspicion. I've heard this is awful.
Dracula 3D. Oh yeah, yes.
The fact that it's called 3D sounds...
Hang on a minute, is that Harrison Ford? No, sorry, hang on.
It does look a bit like Harrison Ford. Yeah, it looks crap.
Okay, right. So, from 1970, the film Count Dracula. Give that a Google.
From...
Give that a Google.
From when?
1970. Give it a Google. Let's all give it a Google together. And you listeners, come on, let's give it a Google.
So that's the one That's got Christopher Lee in it as well.
You see this?
Mm-hmm.
This is obviously them trying to make it as accurate to the book as possible. It's also got his name in Kinski as Renfield. I believe.
So Klaus Kinski is in this as Renfield. Because Klaus Kinski plays Nosferatu, doesn't he? In Herzog's Nosferatu. Yeah.
And that was how many years later? Oh, that was like 9 years later. But yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Okay, let's move on to talk a bit about Nosferatu then, because obviously, it's a Dracula film, but it kind of stands alone as a separate entity in both of our eyes. It's fantastic.
It's a great piece of expressionism.
It's not just a great piece of German expressionism, it is a genuinely fucking brilliant film for its time, and there's something about it that's just, it gets under your skin.
I think that's we should really highlight the fact that we tend to watch a certain copy of the film. Was it 1980? I don't know. The Art Lloyd soundtrack, anyway.
Yeah, this is true.
I don't know what name.
I actually wouldn't want to watch Nosferatu without the Art Lloyd soundtrack. So for anyone out there that wants to watch this film at the best of our recommendation, watch it with the Art Lloyd soundtrack.
This is 1990, by the way. But I've tried to watch it because obviously it was always a live orchestra when it was played when the film was first released, which I thought
standard silent films.
Yeah, so I thought, that's kind of cool. Because if it's going to be, it's not going to be exactly the same each time.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll watch it with that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But no, the flow is completely different. The story feels, it's not as threatening or menacing or eerie or sort of. It's all of these things. There's nothing particularly. There's nothing really nice about the film at all, is there? Like even the bits that are meant to be, beautiful and sort of passionate and great, like all the scenes with Jonathan and Mina.
Yeah.
Whatever. And like, even though their names are changed in this film, but anyway, like something about that just seems sort of. There's something really horrible and sinister about it.
Yeah, well, actually, it's interesting because when you read,
I feel like she's trying to say to him the whole time, "You're in great danger. Something terrible is going to happen."
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, that's the start of Nosferatu. Is all these warnings, and it's like her insecurity, but it's like Nosferatu's overshadowing the entire film. And shadow is obviously used as part of the expressionism of the film style anyway. But also, in a way, I think that Nosferatu captures the essence of the original book better than any other Dracula film because of that feeling of being overshadowed throughout. In the book, you'll have these moments where the characters might write letters from one another. So an example is between Lucy and Mina, where they're sort of talking about their friendship and how much they value each other and their love. And then suddenly, like, the next letter will be something really dark and sinister. So it's like everything good in that book is overshadowed immediately after by some impact that Dracula's had on somebody's life. And that's kind of what it feels like in an artistic sense with Nosferatu, is that it's just a shadow over everything.
Yeah, there's like the concept of it being a film about him and the effect that he has on people.
Yeah.
And like you say, very intelligently and artistically, back to that, the use of the shadow, and the shadows, and the sort of relentless sense of dread that you get from watching it. Like there's no pleasant about it.
Well,
but also because I was going to say, sorry.
Well, I was going to say that Nosferatu is almost an entirely different character from Dracula, because Dracula, he's supposed to come across initially as quite suave and seductive, and that's definitely the route that Bela Lugosi's Dracula went. Nosferatu just looks like a monster throughout.
It's like hang on. So when Jonathan Harker first went to meet him at his castle,
yeah,
did he not think for a second, hang on, this doesn't look like a human being at all? That's a man.
Actually,
that is
in the book.
That's not.
He is very quickly becomes attuned to the fact that something's off.
Yeah.
But if you
yeah.
Just
Also
imagine, like,
that.
obviously we know the story, but put yourself in his shoes. You're going to a completely foreign country in a time when travel was very limited and a very new thing as well. And you appear on the doorstep in the middle of a vast forest, on a mountain, in an isolated castle, and an old bloke opens the door and he looks like shit. You're not going to want to offend him by saying, fucking hell, mate. You look awful.
Jesus, what he is. Also, well, yeah, you could just be like, oh, that just must be what these people look like. The news parts.
Yeah, these Romanians.
Must just be what these Transylvanians look like, with their big ears and their big fucking noses. Well, he's getting warned all the time, for instance, when he stays at that bed and breakfast, and the owner leads him not to go up to the Carpathian Mountains, and it's obviously because, well, actually, I was going to say it's obviously because Dracula, or in this case, Orlok, lives there. But
we just clear that up as well. In Nosferatu, he's not called Dracula; he's called Count Orlok.
Definitely not something I made up. No, he is called Count Orlok. Now I think about it, I think that all the warning signs point to there being wolves. You shouldn't go there. Wolves. Many wolves, all different shapes and sizes. Small, big, little, tiny. Some as big as your toenail. Just don't go up those mountains. Wolves, the lot.
Oh, I've nearly choked then. Does the guy in the does the guy in the pub actually warn him then about wolves in Nosferatu? I can't remember.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
And they actually film a wolf or some kind of fox. It looks a bit shit actually, but it doesn't look very intimidating.
It's definitely a fox, but probably back in the when people were a bit thicker and not as attuned to things as much as we are now, because obviously people in the East, they're a bit dumb, weren't they? No, I'm joking.
Well, I had an interesting thought, because in the book, his three wives, Dracula's three wives.
Yes.
They morph into wolves, and it's insinuated that at the beginning when he's in the carriage and there's wolves chasing at the side of the carriage, that it's actually them later on, and they're almost tormenting and foreshadowing something that's yet to come. But actually, if you think about it, then in Nosferatu, when they filmed that wolf, is that supposed to be one of Nosferatu's wives?
That's all three of them.
All three of them is that little fox.
Yeah. And they all are in this one wolf.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, who'd want to live in a house with Count Orlok anyway?
Yeah.
I'm referring to his wives. He can have 3 wives. The state of him.
Well, he does.
He's
The thing
all over the
about
place.
Nosferatu is that he doesn't. His wives make no appearance in that film, but also
They don't have anything to do with him.
yeah. Well, in the book,
Maybe they did.
in the book, he also has like a group of what they called gypsies at the time come and collect him to take his luggage and his coffin to the ship so he can travel to England. Well, in the Nosferatu film, they do some strange stop motion animation where the lid just lifts itself and plonks itself on top of his coffin, and then he just goes driverless. Like
to this day, I still don't quite understand that scene. And I think what it's basically trying to illustrate to us is that he can do anything. He can just manipulate
reality.
things around him. He can control rats. Right then, we're all going to England, and that's all the rats going with. We're going on holiday.
What do you think of?
He's quite harmless, really. He just loves his pet rats.
What do you think
That's
of?
all he knows.
What do you think of Herzog's Nosferatu?
Oh,
1979 version.
Yeah, I haven't watched it for a long time. I've watched it since, and when I first watched it, I wasn't really feeling it. I felt like it was too slow happening. The acting was a bit wooden and a bit off, but I've watched it since, and I feel like when I first watched it, I thought, oh, okay, how are they going to recreate that performance that Max Schreck gave us in Nosferatu? Because obviously, with it being a silent film,
yeah,
how can they pull back on some of the more curated physical elements of his performance and adapt that into how he would speak? And I think, to be honest, they did quite a good job. Like, if I was because there is meant to be another film coming out, and if I was to expect how he would be portrayed on screen today, I would expect it to be more like that. So I think it is quite. I can't believe the film is good because, like I say, it's been like 15 years since I've watched it, but I think he makes a pretty good Orlok, even though in that film he was actually called Dracula.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is weird. I don't know why they did that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The film's called Nosferatu, but he's Dracula.
Well, Nosferatu just means vampire, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they didn't use any of the German, none of the German-speaking words.
Yeah.
Like, Graf Orlok. Graf just means count, which I didn't know until very recently. Like, for a long time I thought his first name was Graf. Count Graf Orlok, but no, it's just Graf.
It seems like a bit of a wasted opportunity to perpetuate Nosferatu being an entity of its own, to just give him the name Dracula.
Yeah, I know. Did you like it?
again, it's a long time since I saw it, but I remember just thinking it was really boring. Although maybe I would appreciate it more now. I'm sure I would.
Well, I think that's what it is. I think it's because now I know who Herzog is.
Yeah.
And I think with that in mind, that makes me sort of subconsciously like him more, because I appreciate him as a filmmaker, for instance.
Yeah.
I like Klaus Kinski, and I like because it's a very subtle film, and I think subtle is quite important in cinema in certain areas. Obviously not all, but I know that film kind of takes it to a great extent. But it's kind of like a breather. I don't know. It's okay. However, I'd have to watch it again. I didn't think his performance was good, which I think is the main thing, because that's what I was watching it for.
Well, we're at time anyway, because we've gone actually quite a bit over. It's been a good chat.
Yes. Long live Dracula. Most importantly, well, he's not alive, is he? He's dead.
He's
on that whole point.
He's undead, and he'll continue to be so.
Much.
Yeah. Great character.
He's
lots of history.
Great guy. Great bats. Three lovely wives who are there and support him and care for him, and he doesn't care for them though, because he's,
because he can't love.
He's not. He doesn't know how to love.
He doesn't know how to love. Which is another thing I just want to say before we end this. The whole love story of Dracula between him and Mina has been grossly taken out of proportion from the original book. It's not really part of it.
I was expecting that when I was listening to the audiobook. He just seems like a bit of a tyrant, doesn't he?
Yeah, he just wants to control and dominate people. It's nothing to do with falling in love with Mina in the book. But for some reason, because it's Hollywood, they seem to always want to shoehorn that element in.
So with that said, and basically reinforcing what you were saying earlier, Murnau's Nosferatu is probably the most accurate portrayal of the character. I think.
Well, not story-wise, but just feeling-wise. Yeah. Definitely.
Hell, I mean, everybody knows he's a villain. That's what matters. Just not Gary Oldman's version. He's too soft. Even when he does do that very, very sinister laugh when his wives are about to,
Well, Gary Oldman's version is just more tortured, isn't it? You can sympathise with Gary Oldman's Dracula more. He just feels more tortured.
Yeah. He's basically given an origin she never really had before.
Yeah. Anyway, let's leave it there. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Awesome.